widespread belief among Christians in particular that Halloween is a witch's holiday. Hello and welcome. My name's Matt Sargeant. I'm the face behind the Redeeming Halloween Facebook page. I'm also the author of the book by the same title, Redeeming Halloween. My works are devoted to getting an accurate look at what Halloween's history and meaning really are and how Christians can respond to that. So I encourage you to check out that Facebook site all year round. There's stuff on there, original content about Halloween's themes, and then we see more of that in October where I'm posting daily. And you can check out that book too that really is the foundation of all of that, that explains the history of Halloween, the themes that are associated with the Bible, what really has to do with Halloween and what doesn't. And then, of course, if you were interested in picking up a copy of that, those links are on the Facebook page. There's one for bulk ordering if you wanted to order for maybe a small group or Bible study or book club. You can get a pretty good discount on that. But you can get individual copies as well on Amazon. My objective with these videos is to address the objections that Christians have about Halloween. And I'm not looking for everybody to agree or everybody to come to the same conclusions, but to see what the objective facts are about the history of Halloween and the themes associated with it, and to see the validity on both sides of the argument so they're not judging each other. Now, please understand we're dealing with only one objection in this video. If this is not the particular struggle you have with the holiday, check out the couple other videos I've done so far. And subscribe to this channel and follow the Facebook page and you'll see updates. My personal study with Halloween, it really overturned a lot of things that I'd heard, some things that I thought and believed. And it was really fascinating, really eye-opening. So if you're coming into this video as a skeptic, I encourage you to hear me out because maybe you'll come to some realizations like I did that you didn't realize before. And you'll see that there is validity to this holiday from a Christian perspective, that it's not just all witches and devils and all that kind of thing. Now in this video, I want to deal with the association of witchcraft to Halloween. And this is a tricky topic to cover. Some Christians think that Halloween is simply a witch's holiday. And as I said in my last video, that if Halloween truly originated in evil practices and was really an evil holiday, that Christians would be hard-pressed to justify any association with it. Now, in my other works, you'll see that I've clarified that Halloween's history has pagan influences, but actually started in the church. And then these extreme elements that we see, such as Satanism, such as witchcraft, things that are portrayed maybe in the decorations of the movies and stuff like that, were added later and actually have nothing to do with Halloween's origins. So objectively speaking, Halloween does not have its genesis in witchcraft, therefore making it not a witch's holiday. Now, obviously, I can sit here and say that witchcraft has nothing to do with Halloween, but that's not technically true with our cultural observance of it in modern times. When I'm saying that witchcraft has nothing to do with Halloween, I'm talking about its origins. We can trace witchcraft being something that people were sensitive about around Halloween time as far back as the Middle Ages, but even then, it wasn't this invitation to commit sorcery. It wasn't accepting or glorifying witchcraft. It was fear of witches. And then as people became more enlightened and understood science and reality and stuff like that better, they began to not fear so much things like witchcraft and magic. Now, obviously, in our modern culture, we see a lot of witchcraft imagery at Halloween. So at some point, this proliferation of these extreme elements came to be associated with Halloween. And if you've tracked my other works, you might know the answer to that now. It's Hollywood, it's commercialization, it's the entertainment industry, trying to capitalize on a time of year when people are more prone to think about spooky and supernatural things. Witches who were saved and have come to faith in Christ, and they have accounted what witches have chosen to do on Halloween. And so some Christians think that if these witches are giving this kind of testimony, that maybe we should have nothing to do with it at all. And to address that, I want to first point out that just because a group of people, a group of sinful people, decides that they're going to do something on a certain day, That does not invalidate that day for anyone else. Witches are active even on Christmas, and they'll even call their Christmas trees Yule trees, and they are worshiping nature through that. But we don't hand over Christmas, just like we don't hand over the rainbow or any other symbols of our faith, or we don't hand over things like social media and technology and things like that just because they're misused. We can still look at this a little more objectively and apply some wisdom to this and see how can we navigate this and what's appropriate and what does the Bible tell us we can do. Halloween, as I've said many times before at this point, if you followed my work, it's a matter of conscience. And this whole witchcraft theme ties right into that. So we could look at this and say, well, there are people who've come out of witchcraft into Christianity and they want nothing to do with Halloween because witches have chosen to some extent to celebrate Halloween in a certain way. And so they want nothing to do with it because that takes them back to a place mentally and maybe spiritually where they don't want to be, and there's trauma there. That doesn't mean it's invalid for everyone, though. Very much the same with any other triggers or sinful patterns of behavior. Just because it's a weakness for one person doesn't mean it's a weakness for everybody. And remember, we're not talking about witchcraft when I'm talking about a matter of conscience. I'm not saying that, well, I'm not tempted to sin by witchcraft, so I'm going to go cast spells. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that Halloween was objectively a Christian holiday that had pagan influences, and then commercialism came in and made it something that we see today. So what I'm saying is that in my conscience, I could choose to celebrate Halloween in a way that doesn't violate Christian principles and not include the stuff that really doesn't have to do with its origins. Now, somebody else who was saved out of witchcraft, which has now become associated with Halloween, may look at that and say, well, I just can't separate the two right now, or I just see too much of it at Halloween, so I would just rather abstain. And both of those conclusions are totally valid. Halloween is objectively not a holiday that is exclusive for witches. It wasn't theirs to begin with, and if they choose to practice on a day like that, that's their choice, so we don't have control over that. We don't have to let it dictate what we do. We don't have to relinquish to the world everything it tries to claim for its own, or there'd be nothing left for us. Okay, Halloween, maybe it's not really a witch's holiday, but they have chosen to do some certain things on that day. So shouldn't we maybe just lay low and stay out of their crosshairs? It might be just harmless fun. Do we really want to put our children at risk if these witches are trying to cast spells that are somehow going to harm our children or something of that nature? If there was something to be afraid of on Halloween night as it concerns these witches, I would say absolutely it would be wise to stay out of that. But here's the thing. There is nothing to fear. These witches have no power over us. It doesn't matter how many spells they're trying to cast. What does the Bible say? He that is in you is greater than he who is in the world. And I would suspect that most of these witches really aren't actually accomplishing anything. And that if by some chance they are being empowered by demonic spirits, those powers still have no power over us. And we don't need to be afraid of that. And besides, they could do this on any day of the year. I mean, what's stopping them from cursing your Easter ham or hexing your Christmas presents or just any day of the year? And if we're going to say that if witches are significantly more active on Halloween, so they're going to get you if you're out in the street, well, what's to stop them from getting you in your basement? I mean, we can't live in fear. This isn't what God has called us to. We have to not be afraid of evil powers that are out there, because we forget that the good power that is in us, that is the sovereign over the universe, is more powerful, is stronger than all these supposed evil spirits that many Christians seem to be afraid of. Don't judge your brother and sister because they've come to valid conclusions, and certainly don't abstain from Halloween just because of fear. That counters everything that Jesus' death and resurrection accomplished for you. Now, I talked a little bit about how there are certain people who have been saved out of witchcraft and are Christians, and they abstain from Halloween because of trauma and maybe because of temptation. So what do we do with that kind of situation? Well, the Bible's clear about this, that we need to support and encourage each other's convictions, and I would do that. If I came across a converted witch, a former witch, I would not encourage that person to participate in anything that might make them get triggered by that and take them back in a place they don't need to be. And just like I wouldn't take a recovered alcoholic to a place that serves alcohol or where there's alcoholic, advertisements all over the place or things like that, even though an individual Christian who doesn't have that vice may be able to handle that kind of atmosphere. So while I'll encourage someone's conviction to abstain from Halloween, that doesn't mean I can't have a Halloween party at my house. I've encountered people who say that they disagree with my stand on Halloween and therefore I am wrong and I should change my mind. That is not what we're talking about when we're talking about matters of conscience and conviction. We are talking in that case where a certain behavior or practice is tempting somebody to sin. So again, taking alcohol as an example. Taking someone to a bar will tempt them if they are a recovering alcoholic. That is a bad idea. We shouldn't do that. So I may not invite a former witch to, say, a Halloween party in my garage, because that might make them think of the past and they'll start having those thoughts. And they may even think, maybe would it be so bad if I got back into that? That's the kind of thing we're talking about. I'm not talking about Christians who simply disagree and want you to have the same opinion that they do. That is not what the Bible is talking about when we're talking about matters of conscience. I know this topic is probably the trickiest one, at least that I've dealt with so far. And I know it's caused a lot of confusion for Christians because there is a real component to it where witches are being active and there's a lot of fear. But remember that just because someone chooses to do their sinful practices on any given day doesn't invalidate it for us. They can't take something that's meant one thing for hundreds of years and now say, well, now it's our holiday, and if you go trick-or-treating or this or that, then you're a witch. I've heard things that witches are laughing at Christians because they're participating on this day when witches are active. And my response to that is, let them laugh. I mean, they're ignorant. We're the ones who have wisdom because we're Christians. Their spells don't have power over us. And they can't just take something that's meant something else and make it theirs and therefore think that we have to relinquish it. So that doesn't concern me, and it shouldn't concern any Christian. Greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. And we're not talking about a holiday that has roots in evil practices. We're talking about a holiday that started in the church, has pagan influences, and you can check my first video if you need clarification on that or you're looking for that. And has been overly commercialized, like every holiday, really. So if we're gonna go down that road, we're gonna have a lot of other holidays we need to talk about. Now, because of my public works and the sensitivity around this topic, I choose to leave the witchcraft, any association with it, out of my celebration as much as I can. I have no desire to include it anyway. So you're not going to see a whole lot of pointy hats on my Facebook page or in my garage when we do our Halloween party. That's not to say that one might not slip in here or there. And that's not to say that if your daughter comes to my house trick-or-treating dressed in a witch costume that I'm going to start saying that's wrong. I'm going to give her candy and tell her costume's cute. I allow certain elements of witches in entertainment, depending on what that is. Nothing certainly that glorifies witchcraft, but witches as characters in fantasy, that's another topic. That's something I don't think we have to be too strict with. And taking witches out of your Halloween celebration isn't just some lame Christian attempt to sanctify a wicked holiday. You're actually getting closer to what Halloween was in the first place. This issue calls for wisdom, and the good news is that God gives wisdom liberally to his children when they ask for it. Wisdom should be one of the calling cards of Christians, and Halloween is a great opportunity to show that off. Thanks for watching and for tracking with me this far. I hope what I've said is clear and it's been helpful. Take a look at the Facebook page if you have some questions about this and other topics. You'll see stuff on there. Again, my book clarifies a lot of this as well, and you can find links for that on the Facebook page. Again, let's not judge each other. Let's be wise. Let's be objective, and let's have facts behind whether we're celebrating Halloween or not. Let's be motivated for the right reasons. So thanks again, and happy Halloween. These associations of these extreme elephants